This is my first tutorial where I will be explaining the core data related stuff in the Swift programming. So for the core data related stuff in in Swift programming, I'm going to create the one project. So let's start working on that. So let me create the project with app, and project name would be the core data project one. So this is the project name. Here you can see the storage option we already have, and right now this is selected as none. So if you pretty much sure that you need the core data in future, then you can select the storage as a core data, storage as a core data. Otherwise you can select the none, and later on you can add the core data. So for now I'm going to select the core data, and nothing else. So let me create the project. So I'm going to create the project in desktop. Okay, see, when I select the storage as a core data, then I can see the few new stuff. The project name is the core data project one, and the same name we have this one, and this is the XC model file. If you go in the show in Finder, then see XC data model file. This is the core data persistent storage, I can say. So when you select the storage as a core data, then you will see this stuff, and inside this persistent storage there is not any entities already defined, so nothing new here. And let's see if there is anything new in the app delegate. So yes, these were the uh, already existing code, and we can see the one variable here. See, persistent container, and another one is the one method, that is the save context method. So these are the two blueprint code we already received when we have selected core data as a storage. So let's dive on this code, what it says. So you can see the one variable, that is the ns persistent container, and the name is the core data project one. So this is the exactly the name of the XC data model which we have, core data project one. So this one. So this variable is mapping with this XC data model, and we have the container, and then there is already existing code, container dot load persistent storage completion handler. If any kind of error comes, suppose if I put here another name, then obviously this code could not refer the XC data model which is here. So maybe we will get the some kind of error, and we can see. Otherwise, if everything is okay, then the container variable can be returned, will be returned, and that would be stored in the persistent container. So this is the lazy variable. So when we call this variable, at that time only we can see this stuff. So let me run it here. So let's see whether we can see anything new or not. Okay, sorry, I need to select simulator. So iPhone 15, and let me check the log. Okay, nothing we can see. So we have this variable, but we haven't called this variable anywhere. Otherwise this code will be executed, and maybe we can see the something. So let me put here some kind of message, print uh, persistent container returning persistent. Okay, let me run it again. So again we cannot see anything because we are not going to call this we are not going to access this variable. So let me try to access this variable. So simply, where is did application, I can call here let var equal to, I can access persistent container, and then okay. So when we run this, I can see the returning the persistent container because this method is returning. But what if I change something here? And let me run it once again. So see, uh, failed to load the model named this one. So this code is trying to load this model, but that is not defined inside our project. So this name should be exactly the same name which we have here, that is the XC data model. So now when we access this variable, this is in the singleton architecture. So this variable do two stuff. If database is not created inside our sandbox application, then it creates the database core data project one. Otherwise, if there is a already database created, SQLite database is created, then it access that database. So now we need to find or the look where the database is created. We can see this XC data model, that's fine, but in the application we need to find the exact SQLite file. So actually the core data is the framework, not a database, which operates on the SQLite file. So that this frameworks, when we execute anything, then equivalent SQLite uh, project will be, oh sorry, SQLite database will be created. So the somewhere inside our application there must be the SQLite database, and in that database there won't be any entities. So let's try to find out those stuffs where it is saved and how we can access. So for that you need to download one SQLite browser, one SQLite browser. So this is the link. I will put this in my description box. So from here you can download SQLite browser and you need to install that one. And rest of the things I will explain here. Okay. So let me write one method here and later I will explain that. Document directory, and it will return a string, and let urls equal to file manager dot default dot urls 4 dot document directory and in user domain mask. Okay, now let url equal to urls URLs and urls dot count minus 1 as URL. Okay, and then as URL, sorry, and then return URL dot absolute string. So let me call this method somewhere inside this code, and of course I want to call this here. So print, what is the method name? Document directory. Okay, now I'm going to run it again. Okay, see, we have the few some things inside the log. This is the location of the document directory, so I can copy this one. So I have copied, and now let me go here, go to the folder and paste it. Okay, so I'm inside the document directory of this application, of this particular application. There is nothing inside this document directory, but let's navigate this one. So list menu. Okay, let me enlarge it. Okay, so there is the document directory and there is the library next to the document directory. If I go here, then there is the application support, and if I go there, then I can see the core data project one.sqlite file. So actually now I'm going to delete this. Let me delete it. Okay, now I'm going to comment it. I've commented. What is happening? Let's see. So I'm going to same location. Nothing is there. So SQLite file is not created because we haven't called this variable at least one. If we didn't call this variable, then obviously it will do nothing. If I call this variable or I try to access this variable, then this variable will create the database inside that location. If database is already not exist, if database is exist, then that database will be loaded. SQLite file will load it, persistent container inside the persistent container variable. So now I have uncommented this code, means these lines of codes will be executed, and the very first time it is going to create the SQLite file. So let me run it again. Okay, so let me check on that location. Okay, see, I can see this one. Now if you already have installed SQLite browser, then in your application you will see that one SQLite browser. You can open it. Let me open that SQLite browser. Okay, now I can open that database. So open database, I can go that location. For easy purpose, I'm going to copy this stuff somewhere inside the desktop. So let me, or I can go in that location also. Okay, let me paste new database. Okay, open. Okay, let me copy this database and save in new window, desktop, database. Okay, now I want to open this one from the SQLite browser. So let me go in desktop, where is database and SQLite file. So whenever the core data creates the SQLite file, you will see these three files. So you need not to do anything with these files. Just open SQLite file in the SQLite browser and you can see. So there is the already the few tables, which is not, we have not created any tables inside the SQLite file, but these are the tables created by the core data framework. So we need not to do anything um, with it. So let me summarize. So in the database we have the persistent storage, and we need to refer the one variable which maps with that XC data model. So in the application there should be the one XC data model, and this should be mapped properly with our code. So the with our code means the variable which we use to access that XC data model. So we have the blueprint code. This should be mapped with that one. And whenever we try to access this variable checks whether this SQLite file is already created or not based on this XC data model. If not, then it will create the SQLite file, otherwise it will load the SQLite file. It will point to that SQLite file. So how we can see the SQLite file? So for that I have written the one method, and this method will give you the locations of the documents directory inside your application, but you should not go inside the document directory. Next to the documents directory you will see library. Tap on there, and then application support, and here you can find the SQLite file of that database. So these are the things. Now suppose let me copy this method. I don't want to write again and again. So okay, so this is the way when I select the core data as a storage when I create the application. But in some scenario, it may be you have already created the application and you want to add the core data inside that application. In that context, how you will do those stuff? So uh, let's create the another project, or the let me delete this project now. Where is desktop? Okay, core data project one. I'm going to delete this project and I'm going to create the project again. So file, new project, application. I'm going to put the same object name, and this time I'm not going to select the storage. So I did not select the storage. So we have the application, but there is no anything related to the core data. So then now I want to add the everything from the scratch. So how we can do that one? So first step would be you need to put the XC data model inside your application, and for that I'm going to create one separate group inside the project. So new file, sorry, not a new file, new group, new group, and I'm going to put the name of group is core data. Okay, this is the group, and inside that group I need, first of all, I need to create the XC data model, right? So let's add the XC data model. So right click, new file, and you will see here data model, this one. So you can put the any name. So the I'm going to put the name of the project, or you can put anything, but for me, core data project one. Okay, this is XC model. So we have created one. Now there should be the code which should map this model so that the equivalent SQLite file will be created. So for that, of course, we will not have the blueprint code inside the app delegate because we haven't selected the core data as a storage while creating the application. So we are adding all those stuffs later. So for that, I'm going to create the one handler, and the name of that handler, I'm going to put the name of that handler as a persistent storage. So let me add that one, new file, swift file, next persistent storage, and this would be the maybe okay. So I need to use the some classes from core data. For that I'm importing core data, and then this class will, I don't want to extend this class, so final class, persistent storage. Okay, I want to develop this as a, okay, so let me put the one context variable, if you remember that. So let me copy that method, one method I think we need here also. Later on we'll use that one. So we have one method, and then we will have we need, I'm going to make it singleton architecture class. So for that I'm going to make the init method as a private, nothing here. Now a static let shared variable of this persistent storage. Okay, that's fine. Now I need a lazy bed and persistent container. Okay, persistent container, and this should be an of type in persistent container. Now I want to return, okay, let me write a few codes and then I will explain it. So first of all, container, so ns persistent container, and the name should be the name of the XC data model. So what is the name? This one. See, this one. I'm going to copy and going to paste here to make sure there won't be any kind of error. Okay. After that, container dot load persistent, and container okay, load persistent. I think I need more stuff here. Persistent stores, and this should, okay, there is the two variables. So what are the names of those variables? First one is the description, the description of type ENS, persistent store description, and second one is the error. So these are the two stuff. Now let me check. If error comes, then what should I do? If let error equal to error, then okay, unable to load persistent stores slash error. Okay, otherwise okay, otherwise and print. Okay, if there is no error, then of course first time we will create a database. So I can say the creating database and return container. Okay, so the basically we are initializing persistent container. So it is showing me the error shared static persistent storage. Let me run it and maybe it will go. Otherwise static let requires. Okay, so we have the persistent storage, which is the final type class, and there is the uh, persistent container variable. This is the lazy type variable. So when we access this variable, at that time it will be going to execute. And if the database is already SQLite file is already created inside our application, then that will be loaded. Otherwise it will create the SQLite file, which I have already explained. So the new thing is I'm separating all these codes from the app delegate. So we have a persistent container variable which will map with the XC data model, and Then I have added one more method, document directory. So let's call this mm, variable, or try to access this variable from somewhere our application, and let's check the uh, SQLite file is being created inside uh, our application sandbox location or not. So this time I'm going to use this view controller. So we have as class of name persistent storage. So I will say persistent storage shared dot persistent container. So the simply I'm going to access this one. So this one means actually I'm going to access this variable. But before that, I'm going to call print print persistent sorry persistent storage dot share dot document directory. Let me comment this one first and let me check. So when this view controller will be called, then I can see the location of documents directory, and let me go there. Okay, I'm inside the document directory. As I have already mentioned, we should not go inside the document directory to find the SQLite file. Inside the library, we didn't see anything because the SQLite file is not created. Now when I uncomment this code will try to access this variable. This variable means these lines of code, and of course at that time it will create a SQLite file. Let me run it again. So this time let me copy it and go to okay, I'm inside I didn't see the created file, but let me check here the log creating data. This should call no. So persistent storage and let container. Okay, let me run it again. Creating database. Okay, I forgot to save that variable inside one our undefined variable. So when I wrote these lines of code, then the database is creating, and I guess I can see SQLite file. This is the SQLite file we have created, and from next time we'll not see this one creating. Okay, so the database is created, this, and we can see here. So let me summarize all these stuffs, and later on in the upcoming tutorial I will be adding the table, or I will be adding the entity inside the core data, and that will be reflected inside the SQLite file, and will add the few informations there. So for now, what I have done is I have created the XC data model inside our application, And after that I wrote a one persistent storage file, and the and inside the persistent storage file we have one variable persistent container, which will be responsible for creating the SQLite file inside our application if that is not created. And uh, and there is the one supporting method document directory to explain you how the SQLite file, where to find the created SQLite file inside the application. So for that I wrote this method, and I I have accessed this persistent container variable from the view controller, and it after calling this after executing this line, it creates the SQLite file. So you can see the SQLite file, and also you can see the structure inside the SQLite file using the DB browser for SQLite. And I will put the a link for this DB browser SQLite file from where you can download and install. So in the next tutorial I'll be adding the more theoretical related stuff, and the implementation level of the core data. So be connected with our channel, and happy coding. Thank you.